Hi, welcome to Pardon My Frenchie. This is me, 143. If you don't have a friend, you have got three now. Um, Coming to us today, we have a new episode, and on the couch with us and on the phone is a good friend of mine, Mark. He's here to tell us about two of his dogs. One we're going to talk about is Toby. Toby is one that he had years ago that has was one of his family pets that has passed, and then he's going to tell us about one of his that he currently has right now. So let's welcome Mark. Mark, say hi.
Hello.
Hi. So tell us about Toby. What kind of dog was Toby?
He was a mix actually. He was a part Doberman and part German Shepherd. So he was big and had a ton of energy. And the thing is, though, a lot of people think that sounds scary.
Yeah.
But he was probably one of the sweetest, most gentle dogs I've ever seen. So he was great.
and so how did you come about to get Toby?
Well, he came about. It was funny. The kids were my two kids were young. And my wife and I were talking about, pets and everything, as, many new families do, and thinking about what they want to get, how many we should get and so forth. And my wife and I agreed that it's always good to have a dog around the house, not only for just things like protection and all that kind of stuff, but also we had read somewhere that possibly the kids exposed to dogs at a young age were less likely to have like pet allergies.
Yeah.
And also just, we wanted to just add another member to our family and have something there that the kids can learn to take care of and raise themselves, so they can kind of see that firsthand.
And so now, where did you get Toby at?
We actually get all of our dogs from the shelter. Is what we do. We have a thing that you'd like to get pets that from the shelter, especially ones that, as my wife calls them, she likes to get the ones that are damaged. As she calls it.
Well, I understand that. You know what? And though, to me, it's like that. Those are to me the best type, because they get a second chance at life.
Definitely. That's what we always thought too. And my wife always thought, the dogs that we've gotten there, and cats too, for that matter. Especially the ones, and I'll talk to you more about like our second one, Basil, that came from a very, very damaged home, and all that she needed was just someone to love her and look after her and nurture her and everything, and she just turned the corner completely. And I'll tell you more about her later, though.
Yeah, and so now. So when you got Toby, how old were the kids?
I was trying to think of that today. They were young. It was like early grade school, probably like first grade or something, second grade. I want to say it was probably, it was probably about 13 years ago. So they would have been like 7 and 8 years old.
Okay. And Toby lived a long time, right?
Actually, he actually really didn't.
Okay.
He actually really didn't, because he was a young dog when we got him.
Okay.
And he only lived with us maybe 3 years.
Roughly. Oh, really?
We got him from the shelter, and he was an abused dog and all that, and we brought him in, and so we didn't have him that long, and I can get to that when we go along here. I'll tell you what happened. But,
So tell me a little bit about his story. So what was the story behind Toby?
Well, the big thing with him, I'll go back to say that he was a great dog. He was a wonderful dog with kids. He and our cats that we had too. He's the type of dog. He was huge and just super lovable. Tons of energy, obviously, probably from the Doberman and German Shepherd that he had. And he was one of those dogs that he would lay on his dog bed, and he would not mind if the kids would curl up with him on the dog bed with him. And he didn't care. He loved it. The cat would come over and actually stand on his back and do the whole kneading thing and just kind of circle around and lay on his back.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was a really, really good dog. And like I said, we didn't have him very long, because what it kind of came as a big surprise. One of the things we did, kind of a tradition that we started with Toby, was we did this thing because he loved toast and he loved bacon. Ooh. So what we would do on Christmas, on Christmas Day, because we always did a big breakfast for us and everything for the holiday too. But we made this thing called Toby Toast, is what we called it. It was basically a bacon sandwich, is what it was. Yeah. And he absolutely loved it. And he thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And then our last Christmas with him, I remember, making it for him, putting it in his bowl, and usually he would be just going crazy over this. Sure. He didn't even come over. He just kind of just walked away from it. And I thought, that's really odd. Something's not quite right.
Right.
And so later that day on Christmas Day, he was starting to breathe really funny, and he was just acting really strange, and he couldn't get up or anything. And my wife was like, you should probably take him down to MedVet. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's Christmas Day. Are they even open?
Sure.
And I remember it because it was kind of chilly, but it was also kind of raining at the same time. Mm-hmm. And the dog, Toby, wouldn't get up at all. And he was a big dog because of what he was. He probably weighed about 75 pounds or so.
Right.
And I remember I had to pop the back of the truck of our Yukon open. And I had to pick him up and carry him out in the rain and everything out into the truck and put him in there because he couldn't walk by himself.
Right.
So I'm driving down there. It's late at night and everything, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I take him down to MedVet, and I'm down there with him, and my wife stayed home obviously because the kids were still small, and it was later in the evening, actually real late in the evening at that point, probably like midnight or something. And long story short, they took him in. And they did some X-rays and all that, and they found like a cyst that was in him, inside of him, and they weren't too sure if it was cancerous or not. Okay. So I was like, well, what do you do when that happens? She said, well, we can do two things. We can, what we can do is we can open him up. We can do surgery on him, and if we get in there and we're like, it's spread, if it's cancer and it's everywhere, we'll just close him back up and, just say, no, we can't do anything. But she said, if it's something we're like, oh, we can remove that, then great. We'll do that and he'll be great. So I said, okay, let's do that. Mm-hmm. So they instructed me, since it was so late and everything, they're like, go home. We will call you in the morning, let you know what's going on. I'm like, okay, perfect. So of course I'm up practically, all night thinking what is going on. And I get a call in the morning. And they're like, hey, Toby is doing great. He's bounced back. They were like, he's actually outside in their little like place where they take him out back to like do their business and everything. He seems fine. He's a little, woozy and all that from the surgery like late last night, but he's looking really good. And we don't think, anything will be a problem. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, great. Can I come and see him? They're like, let him kind of, work through this. And then they're like, if you're going to work today, go ahead and work. And we'll come by afterwards, bring the kids with you and all that. So what I did was I went to work, and because I'm like, cool, everything's perfect. I literally got to work. This was back when I was working like 7 a.m. shift. Sure. And I got there, and I probably wasn't there an hour when the vet called me, and they said, we've had some issues. It was just in a short amount of time, like an hour's time or so. And they said, he went into cardiac arrest, and we don't know if we can revive him again. Right. So we were like, I was like, oh gosh, okay. And I said, I'm on my way. Right. So this is me coming from the airport where I work, and jumped in my car, took off, and it takes about 30 minutes, if that, to get from the airport to Hilliard, where we live and where the MedVet place was. My wife was already there. Mm-hmm. And he had just passed like right before I got there. Right. And and it was just one of these crazy things that we didn't see coming like a mile away or anything, because he was so young and had no like prior history of anything that we knew about. So that's kind of, and then that's kind of what happened to Toby.
Now, can I ask a question? Did you have other dogs prior to Toby growing up?
I did. Oh yeah. We had dogs. Okay. I lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I had a black lab. up there named Annie. We had dogs. We had dogs growing up. My grandfather was he was a big dog guy because he was a hunter. He lived out in eastern Ohio, and he always had like 5 or 6 dogs, like beagles.
But was this like your first family dog with like you and your wife?
Exactly. This was our first family one.
Okay.
For all of us.
So when I first started working with you 6 years ago. And I think that's the reason why I wanted you to come and tell this story, because when I first started working with you, I can't, how long ago did this happen?
It was probably, gosh, it's probably been 12 years, maybe, I guess. Okay. It's funny. It's as you get older, the time kind of like all melts together. Yeah. So I want to say it was about 12 years.
So
it's probably been.
Yeah. When I first started working with you, that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on here and tell this story, because that's one reason, or that one of the things that I remember when I first started working with you is you didn't have your dog that you currently have now, which is Basil. No. And exactly. I remember that you would always say, when I would talk, because you know me, I'm a huge dog person.
Yeah.
And I would always be like, what, why don't you have a dog? Because
I remember. Yeah, go get another dog.
Do you have a dog? Do you have a dog? I always think everybody should have a damn dog. And
exactly.
But you were always like, no, I'm never getting another dog again. I'm never getting another dog again. And I never knew that like detailed story like that. And and when you go through, and to me, like a situation like that, where, in my opinion, that's a traumatic situation. And then you've got like, how did your kids take that? I mean,
go ahead. Yeah, it's like you said, it's extremely traumatic, especially like we have young kids and they're dealing with like the first loss of anything that they've loved. I mean, they're fortunate to have all their family members, grandparents, all that. Everybody's still around and all that. So this was the first time that they've had anything, that they had anybody that was close to them that was no longer there. All of a sudden, it was literally, they saw him Christmas Day. They went to bed. I took him to the med vet, and the next thing you know, Dad's coming home saying, Toby's no longer with us.
Right.
And for 6, 7 years old, and all that, or 7 to 8 years old, that they were. It's a weird, strange thing for them to grasp. Even as an adult, I still remember coming home and being just completely shocked by the whole thing.
Devastated, I'm sure.
It's funny. I remember sitting on the floor in front of my sofa, like, what just happened in the last 24 hours? How did we go from this to this? Because even the day before Christmas Day, he was just fine. He didn't show any indication until Christmas Day morning that he started acting, that whole lethargic and strange and all that. And it was, it was a weird thing to kind of grasp and kind of wrap your head around, especially when you've got like my daughter especially is a really big dog fan.
Sure.
Her being 6 or 7 years old, coming to me going, Dad, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
It's hard to grasp, and especially for that age. But
and it's like you said, it's like, how do you explain that to them, and how and at that age too, it's like you can tell them, and then maybe a week later they're like, "Well, are they coming home?" It's
exactly. They still look for them later. Like, okay, he told me that he passed away and he's gone off to heaven, but is he going to be here later? Kind of thing. It's hard for them.
Right. And then, on top of the fact of, that again, that was your first dog for you and your wife as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I think that was one of the things when I lost our first dog, as a married couple and a family. I mean, that hurt, again, it hurts when you have, family dogs growing up, but when it's your first like family dog that's yours,
that we got together,
it's hard.
Like, this is the one for us,
right?
This is the
this
one
was your responsibility,
care of.
And you kind of look at like, gosh, I missed it. Where did I go wrong? Did I, And
oh yeah, I thought that for years. Actually, I think that's what led into the whole, like when we would talk about me going, no more dogs, no more. I can't do that again.
Oh, you were adamant.
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't see myself even with another dog.
Right, which was just crazy to me.
It didn't compute.
Right, it was crazy to me because, like I said, you were such like a animal person, and I'm like, there's no way this guy's not going to get another dog. So
he was one of these dogs that I'd take him everywhere. Because I had a big Yukon truck that he would ride in and everything, and he would go everywhere with me, and he would be there right when when I'd ride around with the kids, take the kids to the park or whatever.
Yeah.
And he pretty much went all over the place. And he was just a super big, sweet, kind dog that went too soon, and we didn't have any explanation for it. So, which when that happens, it's even harder to kind of comprehend.
It's awful. And, it's absolutely awful. Yeah, and I mean, all you can think is that, well, you gave him, 3 beautiful years with a beautiful family.
Yeah.
If that
means
it,
and you do, it's what I was just thinking of this too. I remember a lot of times thinking, I think a lot of people go through this when you start thinking, did I miss something?
Right.
Is there something I should have seen earlier? Like, earlier that week, was he acting funny? Was anything like that? And, because I don't know if I told you this before, because before all that, maybe probably I think it was this first year that we had Toby, we actually had an incident with him.
Oh.
I was hanging out with him at home. Mm-hmm. And he's just hanging out with me, following me around the house, and I gave him his flea and tick medicine stuff. And I just happened to look down from like the kitchen table, and he's laying there. I'm like, what is going on? He's like panting and drooling and all that. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So I called the vet real quick, and they were like, oh, that's an allergic reaction to the medicine. All you got to do, soapy water, like Dawn soap and water, wash it off of him as best you can, and he'll be fine. Sure enough, he was good to go like 15 minutes later. But
wow,
I thought that was going to be my one incident with him until he was way old. Right. And I didn't expect this other thing to come along.
Wow.
A couple years later.
Well, and and that's a huge thing with pet parents, is always that like doubt, like, did I miss something? And usually 9 times out of 10, you didn't.
And you just kind of eventually have to get to that point where, it's just things happen,
Right.
It's just the way things are. And unfortunate and sad as it is, it happens. And you just have to kind of move on. That's why, I sent you a picture of him laying in the grass and everything. And I think that's why I keep it on my computer there, because it's, it's been there since the day he passed. Even before that, probably I had it on there. And it's still I still carry that with me. And he'll always, be my dog that I had, my first dog that I had with my wife and kids.
Oh, heck yeah.
He was fabulous.
Heck yeah. Well, they're always, they're family. That's absolutely what they are. Well, so what made you turn the corner after all those years?
What always turns a dad's corner when a dad's daughter says, "Dad, did you get another dog?" I think I found one that I like.
Because I didn't think you were ever going to buckle.
What's that?
I didn't think you were ever going to buckle.
Well, it just took Leah, my daughter, to just kind of push the right buttons.
Uh-huh.
And she and my wife took me over to the place, the shelter. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I'm going in there, I'm walking in this place, and I'm like, no, I'm not getting a dog. I'm not leaving here. And my wife's like, no, come on, let's just see what they have. Mm-hmm. And of course, my daughter already knew what she wanted.
Sure.
And so we go in, and I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, I've been in here forever. And this is the Capital Area Humane Society place up here in Hilliard is where it is. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm looking around at all the dogs and everything. Oh yeah, they're cute and everything. And I see this dog in behind the glass, and I'm walking up to her, and she is staring me down, teeth exposed, just growling from behind the glass, just doing all this craziness.
Yeah.
And my daughter's like, that's the one.
Of
That's
course.
the one that I want. I'm like, serious?
Of course it is.
Right there. She's like, yeah, isn't she adorable? Like, yeah. And she chews my arm off.
Right.
But I'm like, all right, well, let's get her out. Let's get her out of the thing and see how she does. So we go to the woman working the desk, in the dog area. And she's like, okay, well, she's like, I just have to tell you, she does not like men at all.
Oh.
She actually bit a guy here already. From when we got her, she's just really just doesn't trust men at all. And I'm thinking, okay, great.
Sounds great.
This is going to be interesting. So we go into one of the private rooms and they bring her in, and she won't come anywhere near me. I'm like sitting on the floor on the other end, and she's over on the other side with my wife and daughter.
Right.
And yeah, I'm thinking, how will we ever? How's this even possible for us to take this dog? She won't even let me come near her. So, long story short, we talked to the people at the front desk, and they give us the whole story, which I think I may have told you before, but I'll tell everybody. Yeah. She basically came from a farm where she had given birth to, they don't know, maybe one or maybe two litters of pups. Mm-hmm. She was living in a pigsty. And just completely malnourished, just dirty, muddy, everything. They brought her in, and she basically bit one of the guys working on her, and they were like, you know what, maybe we'll just let the girls, because she seems to be better with them. And they basically had to hold her back a month before releasing her out into like the viewing area to make her available, because they weren't sure. They were on the fence. They were like, should we do we put her down, or is it just better for her? Right. So they were just not sure what to do. So, long story short, she ends up at our house.
Oh boy! Wow.
And I remember thinking, for the longest time, before this is over, I'm going to get bit. It's just going to happen.
Sure.
I mean, I've been bit by dogs before, just from my youth and everything, like delivering papers as a kid and having a dog bite me, things like that. Uh-huh. But it never really bothered me. But I just kind of thought it would happen, and it never has. And
well, she's never bitten you.
What's that? I'm sorry.
She's never bitten you?
No, never. Oh. Never. I'm one of these type with dogs and any pets for that matter. I think just the gentle, soft approach, and mm-hmm. just kind of let them come to you on their terms is kind of the way I do it.
Sure.
Like I remember we have a split level, and she would sit at the end of the hallway, at the very end, there's like a closet door down there. She would just sit there, and she would growl at me.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, so people get an idea of what kind of dog she is. She's a blue heeler and some other mix in there. Maybe like some kind of other cattle dog in there. So she's a good sized dog. She's like 50, 60 pounds.
Yeah.
But she would sit at the end of the hallway, and I would just sit at the top of the stairs on the split level. I would just sit there. And I would just kind of slunch down a little bit and just kind of put my elbow like on the top step and just kind of wait for her. And eventually she'd just get closer and closer and closer. And then, when my daughter and I would walk her, I would tell my daughter, like, let me walk her, let her know that, that I'm, with her. And just, it probably took, 6 months. And, before she really warmed up to me.
Sure.
And she's, now I take her everywhere. I take her in the car with me all the time, everywhere we go. And,
right.
Yeah. She's
I was going to say, you take her every day, don't you? For a walk?
What's that? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, you walk her every day, don't you, basically?
Oh, every day. Yep, every day. She's a high energy dog, so she requires about 3 miles a day.
Oh.
Is what she requires.
Wow.
And so, which is good for me too.
Right.
Gets me out and moving, especially in the winter months. But she's also one of these dogs. She has a big herding ball in the backyard, mm-hmm. because she loves to herd. She'll herd just about anything. If we go walking with other people, mm-hmm. She'll basically circle everybody and just kind of keep them going and everything. And and she went from this damaged dog that they were probably on the verge of just putting down to this dog that's great. She's been wonderful for my daughter and wonderful for me too, to kind of move on from the whole thing with Toby, and just kind of be like, yeah, I can have another dog again. And yeah, it just took time.
Right. Well, like I said, I mean, the situation with Toby was just traumatic. I mean, that was a traumatic situation. And
it was awful.
It wasn't
it was crazy.
It wasn't a peaceful ending at all.
No.
So, I mean, and then, I mean, at least Basil gave you kind of a new outlook on, that you can, share your life again with, a new family member.
Totally. And, I think she's been really good for me. I think she's really kind of brought me back into the fold, so to speak, as far as, as far as having a dog again.
Sure.
Because honestly, when we one of the things, I didn't tell you this part, when we were getting the dog, when we were actually like signing the paperwork and everything, I was telling my wife, I said, okay. I said, I'm not feeding the dog. I'm not walking the dog. I'm not cleaning up after the dog.
Of course not.
I'm not taking the dog to the vet. Nothing like that. Guess who does all of those things now?
Oh, I know exactly who does all those things now.
Yes, I do all of those things. And sometimes, like when it's raining or something like that, I'll tell my wife, I'll say, hey, you might want to walk your dog. But then she'll say, wait, she's like, it's not my dog.
No.
I'm like, oh, yeah, I know.
No, but they they're good for families, and they do, improve the quality of life. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, with her, it's great too, because she is fiercely protective.
That is nice.
Which is great, especially since, she's with, before my daughter went off to college, they were always together, or else, the kids were home by themselves or something, in high school and college sometime, or high school and beginning of college. And it was nice to have something like that there, an animal a pet, that could scare everybody away, at least in my mind.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I just like the fact that you're the one that didn't want a dog, and they picked the dog that didn't like men. They couldn't even ease into the fact of let's find a joyful dog that that might be good for Dad.
Fluffy, happy dog and everything. Let's find the one that's going to bite Dad. Let's do that.
Let's find the one that'll kill Dad in his sleep.
Exactly. I was half thinking I was going to wake up in the middle of the night and the dog is like standing on my chest, like waiting to like rip my throat out or something.
Exactly.
There were times like when we first brought her home. She had it wasn't those metal pens or anything, it was like a cloth type of one, because we were kind of like training her to have her own space. I remember my daughter and son and wife were all gone. And they were like, oh, you're going to need to let the dog out in the morning. And because my wife was at work and I was off or something, and I go to like open the thing, and she just growled and just made these nasty snarling things, and I was just like, no, I don't think so. So I called my wife at work and said, you need to come home and let Basil out. And she was like, what?
Well,
because the dog didn't act like that to her at all. I was the only one. So, but
well,
it's funny though. She actually still does growl at me.
Yeah.
Like when I come into the bedroom or something like that late at night when my wife's already in bed, she'll grr, and I'll be like, oh, stop it.
Right.
And she stops.
Like she forgets.
Exactly. It's like she forgot who I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been good though. It's been great to get, to have a dog again, and to, be able to give her a life that is just the complete 180 degrees different of what she did have, what she came from, and so it's great.
Now, did you get her at the same shelter that you got Toby from?
Yeah, same place.
Okay.
Yep, same place we got our cats from too, and all that.
You didn't talk about the cats. How many cats do you have?
Well, right now I only have one. We did have two.
Okay.
Before, and that was an interesting run too, because it was an interesting thing, because they were really getting old and really getting sick, and it was one of those things where you end up spending a ton of money. And tons of procedures, and wondering, am I doing the right thing? Should we be doing this?
Yes.
Like our one cat, Slinky, she was a tortoiseshell cat.
Mm-hmm.
She was diabetic.
That's what I thought. I was going to say, I thought one was diabetic.
Once again, it fell on me to give her shots in the morning and shots in the evening.
Oh.
But yeah, and that was another thing too, where it was a tough kind of decision of, when do you let them go? When is it more humane to let them go?
Now, how long did Slinky live for?
Oh gosh, Slinky was like, she was around when we had Toby.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of crazy, right?
Right.
And actually both the cats were around for both, because they were like 16, 17 years old, something like that. Yeah, they were around a while, and so it was interesting. It was crazy to kind of go through that after going through the whole Toby thing, and then. Because after the whole Toby thing with the cats, we were like, we got to do whatever. We have to do everything we can. We have to do this, we have to do that. And at the end, it was just like, the more humane thing, especially with the one, was to just kind of, let her go. Right. And as much as we hated to do that, we knew it was the right thing.
Yeah, and I remember working with you during that time as well, because I remember the cat was diabetic, and it was on so many. Yeah, I remember you were saying that you had to give it shots, and I'm like, oh Lord, I couldn't imagine that.
It was something.
I have a friend that had a cat that was diabetic, but it had to be on so many shots a day, and oh Lord, that poor thing.
Yeah.
But like you said, you do what you can until you just can't, unfortunately, until the quality of life isn't there, and then you do what you do out of love.
Exactly, and that's exactly what it is, and that's it's always a tough decision. And but I think eventually you get to the point where it's it's the right thing.
Well, you know it, and then I always say that people always whenever I had meetings, they would always ask me. They're like, "Well, how do you know?" And I have always found that whenever I had to make that decision, that they tell you, and they tell you. You know, so. And like I said, it's everything is done out of love. So,
definitely. It's an interesting thing having these furry guys in your life, and just everything they bring to it. Everything. The emotion that comes with when it comes to that time when they do this.
I don't know about you, but when I come home from work every day, my husband does not run up to me, and he's not all that excited to see me. But I'll tell you what,
exactly.
These guys come running up, and everybody's happy. Even the kids, nobody comes running up to me all happy to see me. So
I agree. I get home like I'm actually dog sitting for my sister right now.
Yeah,
she's got an older yellow lab that she's 15.
Oh wow!
She's sitting right here with me now.
Aww.
I'm actually wondering why I'm not petting her more. but she, it's when I go home here in a few days, the dog will be just crazy, just because she hasn't seen me in a while.
And so Jory will not be.
Did you cut out?
No, I said Jory will not be.
That's weird. You're kind of cutting out a little bit there. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
maybe I'll move closer to a window.
No, Jory won't be excited to see you.
Oh gosh, no! I think she's already forgotten about me.
Oh,
no, she actually texted me today asking me to come by the house in the morning, and I'm going to walk the dog with her. So I'm going to walk Basil with her.
Oh, and good. All that. Good.
Yeah, well, that's basically her saying she doesn't want to have the dog pull her around the neighborhood for 3 miles. So,
well, I don't blame her on that one. So
she's strong, because she's one of the, like I said, a cattle dog / blue healer. So she's got a lot of strength, and she'll pull even a big guy like me around the block. So
and she's a herding dog too, right?
What's that? I'm sorry.
She's a herding dog too, right?
Yeah, she's a herding dog, and so she's tons of energy, tons of strength, and she's sometimes a little too smart for her own good. She'll distract me, and like if I'm eating something, she'll distract me. Oh. So like she'll go chase the cat up the hallway, and I'll go run out there, and she'll like double back around the backside and try to grab my sandwich off the table or something. So she does that often.
She's not dumb. She's not dumb.
She knows. She knows.
Aw.
But
thank you for coming on and sharing your story today.
Yeah,
definitely. I'm gonna share your pictures after the video is over. So but thank you for coming on, and thank you for everybody stopping in and seeing the video. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. If you don't have a friend, you've got another one now. Mark is your new friend. So
that's right.
That's right. And then now you'll have Basil. Basil will be your new friend too. And again with Coco and Rosie. But until next week, thanks for stopping by. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.